There's a story about a woman who, like many of us, went through a long string of relationships, but she never gave up believing that she would one day find her perfect partner. In the course of her dating, she met a number of men who she liked, but no matter how wonderful each of them seemed, there was always some small problem. One of the men she dated was very kind and sweet and gentle, but the problem was that he wasn't very assertive. She did, however, meet a man who was assertive, who knew how to take control in any situation. But the problem was that he was a bit too controlling. She later met another man who was both kind and assertive, in just the right balance. But the problem with him was that he didn't have any real financial stability. Of course, she soon met a man who was very wealthy and would shower her with lavish gifts. But the problem was that he was always very busy and distracted by his work. So she kept going on like this from one to the next. And then one day, she met a man who was unlike all the rest. This man possessed all of the qualities which she so highly valued. He was smart and handsome, financially independent. He was kind and considerate, a real gentleman. In fact, he seemed to be everything that she had been looking for in a partner. But there was one small problem. He was also looking for the perfect partner. When it comes to relationships, it's important to have standards and to adhere to them. I'm amazed by those who always complain that they keep winding up with partners who don't respect them, as if they have no choice in the matter. If we're often finding ourselves in relationships with people who don't value us, it may be an indication that we don't value ourselves enough to hold out for something better. What we often fail to understand is that even if we're attracting these inconsiderate people into our lives, we don't have to become involved with them. We can have enough self-respect to simply walk away. When we complain about the type of partners that we're attracting, what we're essentially saying is, I don't want this kind of partner. So the question then becomes, what kind of partner do you want? And are you willing to hold out and not settle for less? Have you given much thought to what you really want in a relationship? Have you thought about what qualities are most important in a partner? Some people know exactly what they want in a partner. Some people have given this a great deal of thought, and they may have in their mind an image of what the ideal partner would be like. And rather than getting involved with just anyone who shows an interest, they're willing to wait until someone comes along who fits that ideal. However, we could wind up being so particular, so specific, that we never find anyone who quite fits that ideal. Or, like the woman in the story, we might meet such a person only to discover that we don't quite live up to their ideal. While it's important to set standards, sometimes we can set unreasonable standards for our potential partners, many of which we ourselves don't even live up to. In fact, we tend to desire most in a partner those very qualities which we find lacking in ourselves. The point that I'm making here is that we can spend a great deal of energy thinking about what we want in a partner without giving much consideration to what it is that we have to offer in return. And if we really want to have a healthy, balanced relationship, we have to understand that it's an exchange of energy. It's a mutual sharing. It's not just about you and what you might get out of it. So if you have taken the time to think about what you want in a partner and you've given it a lot of thought, it may be wise to give it a little bit more thought. What I mean is that it may be a good idea to take some time to re-examine those qualities which we're seeking in a partner and to reassess what is most important, what is most valuable. It's also important to consider whether we are capable of offering the very same things in return which we expect. Do you think that it's fair to put such demands upon your partner if you are not capable or willing to provide the same in return? Is it fair to hold someone to a standard which you yourself do not uphold? And is it not hypocritical to reject someone simply because they don't meet the criteria that you yourself do not meet? I knew a woman who, despite her expressed desire to have a spiritual partnership, had placed financial stability as a much higher priority. So even when she met someone with whom she seemed to have a deep spiritual connection, if that person didn't make a lot of money or someone wealthier came along, she wasn't willing to invest time into that relationship. And what made this hypocritical was that this woman didn't have any financial stability of her own. In fact, that seemed to be the very reason why she sought that in someone else. And she didn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with this. So on one occasion, when she was going on about the kind of man that she was looking for, which seemed to focus a great deal on financial stability, I began telling her about the kind of woman I'd like to meet. I told her that I was in search of a wealthy woman with a stable career who owned her own home and who could support and provide for me. And when she heard this, she gave me a look of disgust. She then accused me of being shallow. Now, the reality was that I was just being facetious. I was simply trying to make a point. In reality, I was just mirroring everything that she had said, but in my own words, in order to get her to see herself in what I was saying. And it was good that she had seen the shallowness in my comment, but could she see the shallowness in her own desire for a partner who would take care of all of her financial needs, and how she had made this a determining factor? As I stated before, we often desire certain qualities in a partner that we don't feel confident or capable of providing for ourselves. And it's not always about material inadequacies or financial insecurity. It can be about personality traits, characteristics, talents, and so on. Or it can be about wanting someone to love us because we don't love ourselves. Essentially, we're looking for someone to provide these things for us so that we might benefit vicariously. But as long as we depend upon someone else to provide these things, those qualities will never actually be ours, and we will always remain dependent upon our partner to fulfill them. And if the relationship doesn't work out for some reason, then we're right back where we started. So I would challenge you to find that confidence within yourself to develop those qualities and capabilities, rather than relying on someone else to provide it for you. We should certainly have standards, but those standards should be reasonable and fair. That is, we shouldn't expect anything of anyone which we ourselves cannot offer in return. If it does happen that you meet someone who does possess those additional qualities, then this is an added bonus, but it should in no way be a determining factor and should also not become an excuse for us to stop working on developing those qualities and characteristics within ourselves. In as far as actually finding a partner, we shouldn't be too anxious. Once we have a clear and reasonable understanding of what we'd like in a partnership and what we have to offer, it's good to release that desire, to just leave it to the universe, so to speak. Not to actively seek it out, but to allow it to occur naturally in its own timing. It's amazing how the right person can just show up in our lives at just the right moment when we least expect it. And therein lies the key, not to expect it. Acknowledge that you deserve someone really amazing and be open to meeting that person, but don't go trying to force it to happen. Release the desire and bring your focus back to yourself. This time is best spent working on yourself, embracing and developing your qualities and talents and so on, as well as your overall sense of independence. You're more likely to meet your ideal partner when you're not actively searching, but are fully engaged in pursuing and expressing your own personal passions and inspiration. If you're actively searching for a partner, you're likely neglecting yourself and acting out of a sense of desperation. This not only increases the chances of meeting ill-suited partners, but if you do in fact meet someone who fits your ideal, your desperation and eagerness may actually make you less desirable to them. We're generally attracted to confidence and self-assuredness, which come from being emotionally independent and secure, while on the other hand, we're often repelled by neediness, which exposes a person's desperation and insecurity. If you find that you're overly eager to find a partner, your time alone is ideal for examining and relinquishing this desire, this eagerness, to ask yourself, why is there such a strong desire to have a partner in the first place? Why do you not feel content simply to be alone? It's perfectly healthy to want to share your happiness with another person. But what is unhealthy is to feel that you need someone in order to make you happy. And if you are unhappy, you're most likely to attract someone else who is equally as unhappy. And two unhappy people cannot make one another happy. It's like two beggars begging from one another. They both have nothing to give, and yet they both expect to get something from the other. And when you have this kind of relationship, there's all kinds of resentment and conflict. A truly happy person will not be attracted to someone who is miserable. A person who is secure in themselves will not be interested in someone who is deeply insecure. A person who is happy and fulfilled, who is content to be alone, will not choose a partner out of any sense of desperation, but is willing to take time to get to know someone or hold out until the right person comes along. So if you're unhappy, no relationship will help you as much as the one you have with yourself. If you don't love yourself, you'll be unable to truly love another, and you'll be unable to fully accept the love of another. And so regardless of whether you're alone or in a relationship, you won't be happy in the long run. So if this happens to be the case, use your time alone to build a strong and loving relationship with yourself. And when you become secure in yourself, only then can you have a secure relationship with someone else. The story I opened with illustrates how even if we meet someone who seems to fit everything that we're looking for in a partner, we may not fit everything that they're looking for. Or it may be that in our search for the perfect partner, we find all kinds of imperfections and that no one ever seems to measure up to our ideal. But maybe what is really needed is that we let go of this idea of perfection. First of all, because we ourselves are not perfect, and it's not fair to require of others what we don't measure up to ourselves. But secondly, because there really is no perfect partner. In fact, there is no perfect person. We all have our various flaws and imperfections. We all have our weaknesses, our inadequacies, our insecurities, and so on. And when you think about it, it's actually a bit of a relief, because if no one is perfect, then we can relax and be a little easier on ourselves. We don't have to be so self-critical or pretend to be someone else just to get others to like us and so on. And if we can learn to accept and embrace our own imperfection, then we can also accept and embrace the imperfection in others. And this is actually one of the things which makes for a happy, healthy relationship. Not that we expect perfection nor demand it. Not that we resent our partner for being imperfect, for having flaws or making mistakes, but that in recognizing that we all have our various imperfections, that we all make mistakes now and then, that we all have areas within ourselves that are in need of improvement, we can be more understanding of one another, more compassionate and forgiving. What makes a relationship successful is when we approach it from the understanding that no one is perfect, but we can come together and work with what we have. We can see the relationship as an opportunity for growth, and we can support one another in that growth. For me, the ideal partner would be someone who accepts me just as I am, with all of my flaws and imperfections, and who is also aware of their own, and is willing not only to take responsibility for their own personal issues, their own mistakes and misjudgments, their own emotional and spiritual growth, but is willing to be supportive of mine as well. So give up this idea of finding perfection. Give up the idea that perfection even exists. Be open to growing and evolving, and use your time alone to discover and develop your strengths and your virtues. And when you find yourself in a place in your life where you're truly content in yourself, where you are happy and fulfilled, where you embody and express your passion and your inspiration, you won't have to go looking for someone else. It's these very qualities which will make you most attractive to others, and which will naturally draw others to you. And the person who shows up in your life, who shows an interest, will likely be someone who reflects and embodies these qualities. If you find value in this content, please like, share, and subscribe.